All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for joining a VR Verdict Podcast, episode 88. I'm PJ.
Wookie. Mind me.
And we'd like to share VR with you. Before we get into it, two quick shout-outs. We have a reveal today for those visiting or watching the video and listening. We have our nice new Dot Lady Luck 3D models animated and sculpted for our space. There'll be a video on our Twitter after this round. But Zed here is in the audience. He was the animator. We had a friend, Santiago, sculpt them. So check the show notes for links for those gentlemen. The other shout out I have to read because I don't remember a lot. I just dropped something. But anyway, we're here talking to Man Silver, friend of the show, longtime Spatial Ape aficionado, just graduated and is going into a career of AR and VR, correct?
Yeah.
Nice. So we're here
just
to
graduated. Saturday technically was graduation, though Friday was my last day in school.
Yeah. Awesome.
Streak down the halls?
Nah, there's no halls. It's kind of a small building.
Did you digitally streak down the halls?
Definitely.
So we're just here to listen to his story and see what his plans for the future and all things tech are. Back to that shout out before we get going here. If you're listening to this, there is a Onward tournament going on right now at the same time. So if you can't be in our audience, go do this on a Thursday because they have them every Thursday. But again, there'll be links in the show notes. But the team Revelayshuns is hosting tournaments every Thursday at different games. So that's pretty sweet. If I wasn't in here, I would be over there.
Nice. But your avatar is sitting on Sean Man Silverman's lap.
You're back to normal.
You're back. You were literally giving him a massage or something.
I just like the guests to be
massage.
comfortable.
Just a shampoo.
So, rinse and repeat. But yeah, congrats, man, on graduating. That's awesome.
2 years in the making. Not including, high school, of course.
Yeah. No one includes that in anything.
Yeah, nobody wants to remember it.
So just curious, looking to get your history, at what point were you like, hey, this XR or AR VR thing sounds cool. Let me kind of look into that and pursue that career.
So it's kind of like a weird coincidence, stacked on top of each other kind of thing. So I've been interested in VR ever since the first Oculus headset was released. But I never had the money to get them or really even the time to invest in research or anything like that. But it was always kind of something that I was interested in. I would occasionally watch some YouTube videos of people playing VR games. But at the time, my main goal was to just work in the tech industry in general.
Nice.
At some point I did, some point previous to that, I did specifically want to be a programmer, but I kind of lost the passion for that after a little while due to some various personal life things. And then dates. What's this year? It's 21, right?
Yep.
Okay, so at the start of, actually, near the end of 2019, my mother sent me an article for a school that is coming to my town, and I looked at it, and it was really interesting. The way they had everything structured and stuff was very intriguing, and it was a software engineering school. So I was like, okay, cool. This could be my chance to, get into programming professionally, because around that time, my passion for programming had kind of returned a little bit. So it was, really convenient timing, basically. So I applied, I got in. I was the first class here in my town in Tulsa. and I didn't actually know. I didn't do as much research as I probably should have into the school before applying, which I did end up regretting later. But that's not what we're here to talk about. So I didn't
Put a
know
pin
that
in
they
that.
had an AR and VR specialization for year 2. So the way they have the schooling structured is that the first year is fundamentals. It's just basic full stack software engineering concepts, and then the second year, which is technically less than a year, but like who's counting? It's basically a year. Is basically just under a year, enough to be for them to claim it's under a year kind of thing. Under 2 years. So the second year was
360 days.
exactly. So the second year is supposed to be specializations, and there was like 5 different tracks you could choose from. There was machine learning, low level, web dev, AR VR, and the career sprint, which is basically like a fast track specialization year just to get you into a job faster. And I saw the AR VR thing. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I want to do that. So I chose that as my specialization. I'm like, well, crap. Now I need to get a VR headset. So this is not too long after the Quest 2 had released. I'm like, okay, I'll just get the Quest 2. It's the cheapest one. Sure, why not? I decided to get a Windows mixed reality one before I got my Quest 2, and the one that I wanted had been discontinued already, but I found one on eBay that was like new.
Nice.
I bought it. I used it for, I think, less than a month, and then it just died.
Bummer.
Wookie, you just ate the table.
You must have had an emergency.
So my first headset just kind of bit the dust very soon after purchasing it. So I kind of guilt tripped the seller into giving me half of my money back, because otherwise I would not
Nice.
have had enough money to get a headset for the specializations program. And then from there, the only other headset I could find that was purchasable at like a cheap price was the Quest 2. So I ended up going with the Quest 2. I'm like, okay, that's fine. At least I know it's going to work. It's Facebook, but it's whatever. As long as I can, do my schooling properly. I got the Quest 2, and I had a lot of fun with it. So I've technically not been doing VR stuff for even a year yet, I don't think. But I've already got, I think I put on my website, I've got 1,100 hours or more in VR
That was a crazy
already.
amount.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact number, but it's up there on my website somewhere. I'm like, wow, I didn't realize it did that much. So I've, despite not having been in VR for very long, in terms of like actual, real life time, I have spent a lot of time in a headset. A good chunk of that time is spent on development, working on all of my school assignments and stuff, and then the occasional personal experiments here and there. But it all culminated in me graduating a little bit ago.
Nice.
Step away, I'm back.
Everything okay there, Wookie?
Some people don't know how to respect other people's time, and lost the whole story.
Just gonna gesture at my cat.
Throw shoes at people after the recording here. Cool.
So what are
Saw that.
your
Rats? Super cool rat.
So do you have a specific set of plans for the future? You're just kind of seeing where the technology goes and kind of ride along with it, or?
Currently, I basically just got a job today.
Nice.
I'm not technically like signed on for anything yet, but it's basically set in stone already. For lunch today, I went out to meet with. So, I guess I should start a little closer to the beginning. So, for our final project at the school, we basically get like full reign and control over the project that we do. They only grade us based on whether or not we did a project and how we presented and that. So we make our project however we want to make it, and then we present it live in front of potential employers. And that's called demo day. So demo day was the Friday. That was the last day of school, whereas graduation was the Saturday
building,
right
right?
after that.
Don't demo the building, though, right?
Wrong kind of demo.
No.
Charges? Okay.
So obviously, because my specializations was AR/VR, we decided to the one other person who was in the specialization with me. We decided to do a VR project, and we actually ended up having almost the exact same idea for what we wanted to do for our final project. So that worked out pretty conveniently.
Wow.
And during this demo day, like I said, there's actual potential employers there. A little bit before the demo day, I'd say like maybe a week before demo day, one of the school staff came up to me and my partner and said, hey, there's this person who's wanting to open a VR gaming cafe just down the road from the school. And they're wanting to hire an in-house dev team. And they're going to be there on demo day. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So during demo day, I met with this dude. Apparently, my partner for the project actually used to know him. He's an old friend from high school or something. So that was, we already had a foot in the door, basically. So we met with this guy, and he's got some great plans for this cafe. And today we met with him for lunch to discuss like actual. He actually brought like a full like giant piece of paper blueprints of the building. It was really kind of a unique experience watching him roll that out on the table in the cafe that we met at. And yeah, we met up, we talked, and I'm basically confirmed right now to do some contract work for him in the time before he actually starts hiring full-time staff. He said it's basically like we're going to work as contractors for now, but he intends to hire us come, I think it's January-ish, at the earliest. So contract into full-time work. So woo.
So you didn't even like technically graduate, and you were kind of in a job.
A little bit, yeah. I just saw things fly. I was like, what's going on? Yeah, so right after school, I'm already basically confirmed for a job. I technically didn't have to interview, which is kind of weird. I was totally prepared to like have an interview and stuff, but didn't even need to do that. I might need to do an actual interview, like come time to get full employment, just for process's sake or whatever. But yeah, it's cool. It's basically the dream job because one, VR cafe, that's cool. Yeah. Two, I'm like one of the main things I was going to look for in a career is I wanted to basically my goal was I wanted to push VR forward from a software standpoint, if that makes sense. I wanted to make things and do things that would improve the technology and push things forward. And this VR cafe is going to have some cool stuff. It's going to have, it's got omnidirectional treadmills, 2 of them. And I'm not talking in slide mills, actual treadmills. They're motorized and they're huge and military grade.
Nice.
So like, there's some cool stuff. They've got a gantry system for those big treadmills, so that it'll catch you if you fall, and at some point they're wanting to upgrade it to like these like super expensive it's essentially like a lift system that will allow you to do like low gravity and stuff. Like it's got some really, really cool tech. He's going to be investing in some of the best hand tracking and force feedback gloves on the market. There's going to be a lot of cool technology there that isn't things that you can get at home right now. That's exactly what I need, is like stuff I can play with to help progress the future. I am playing with the future at this job.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it ticks all the marks. It's gaming. It's a VR cafe, which is just cool. I mean, it ticks all the marks. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so there's a VR cafe kind of like that near me, Rum 5 Studios. They're actually in the app today, and they've been here before. We've had them on the podcast, and I've been up there in person, and it's awesome. The cool thing I think for like people working there is like a bonus anyway. If you don't have a good space to play VR at home, you can just take your headset there and you have all the space you want. But like you said, that's really neat that you're trying to help push the technology forward with the software, and you're actually going to have a chance to do that right out of the gate. That's pretty.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky with this opportunity just popping up at a very convenient timing, basically.
Really.
So I got pretty lucky with all of that, and then life decided to even that out by catching my computer on fire earlier today, but that's fine.
Well, I mean, shit, it's not cool.
So yeah, I'm real excited for that.
The computer fire?
No, the job.
Okay?
I'm really upset about the computer. So, it actually died the day after demo day.
Oh.
I was hosting an event. Actually, no, it was the night of demo day. Yeah, it was after, like, right after demo day. I came home. I was hosting an event for a community. I clicked go live on Discord to start streaming my screen.
Oh no!
And it just poofed. So I took it out. I took it apart, diagnosed it. I figured it was probably the power supply. Ordered one, got it with 1 day delivery, but it took me until a couple days ago to actually find the time to actually like pick one out. But I got 1 day Amazon delivery, which was nice. So I got home today after the lunch, plugged it into my computer, hit the power button, and just saw fire. It was pretty upsetting. So that computer is dead. I still have a computer to work on. It's actually a Razer laptop, so it's not bad. It can do VR and stuff. But a lot of my data is on the hard drives on my my computer, and the data there should be fine. But I don't have any way of plugging my hard drives into my laptop right now, so I'm gonna have to get like some sort of external enclosure until I can afford to build a new PC. And I also don't have a Unity license for my laptop, so I'm gonna have to go get a new Pro Unity license, which is a pain. I'm seeing if my my new boss will be able to just provide that for me, since I'm going to need it to work.
That's the route to take.
The world gives and the world takes. That's
I was gonna say there's got to be a little yang with the yin.
Yeah.
Wow, that's like a pole vaulter's pole snapping, like right there.
Yep.
Yeah. So
you made it
the
over
fact
the
that
pole,
it died the night after demo day is insane, because I did most of the work on my final project, or I guess most of the hours on my final project was in the last 2 days before demo day. So if it had died just a little bit sooner, my project would be nowhere near as close to completion as it is currently. So demo day would have been a look for me than it was.
Yeah. So if you didn't procrastinate, it wouldn't have went up in flames on you.
Taking Wally down, PJ. Jeez.
I'm just kidding.
It wasn't so much procrastination as like, there was a sort of like dress rehearsal that we had for demo day at school. And for that dress rehearsal, we brought our headsets and our stuff with the game installed to get some of the other students to try it out, give us feedback and stuff like that. And through that, we had a whole list of notes that we wanted to change and fix things, and a couple things we wanted to add. And we only got like, maybe half of them actually done before we had to go to bed because we needed to sleep for demo day. By the way, I didn't get to bed till 4 a.m. before demo day, and demo day started at 9 a.m.
Wow. How many Kit Kats did you eat to get fueled up for that?
I actually didn't eat any Kit Kats. I did have some next to me, but I didn't eat any. I was too busy trying to get things done. I think I did have a Coke coffee though.
Wow,
That's awesome.
You gonna give that computer like a Viking burial? 'Cause it sounds like it.
I think it gave
sacrifice
itself a
itself.
Viking burial.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. I need to. If I had a test system or something, I'd try and figure out what parts are still good. I think the RAM's probably still good. The CPU might be okay, but the graphics card is what initially caught on fire, so that thing's toast. I'm going to be returning the power supply that I bought to try and fix it, not because it's, not good anymore, but because I don't have any use for it without a computer to power. So I'm just going to return that until the time I have enough money to actually build a whole new system. And the rest of it's just sitting here to the left of me right now.
Yeah, when you're trying to salvage pieces from a build or something like that, you got to have basically all the same pieces to swap stuff out. So that's kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah, it's going to be expensive to fix. I basically have to build a whole new PC here. I'm not going to be able to afford that for a little bit. I'm subsisting off of just some savings that I had built up while I was doing schooling, because right now I technically have no income. My income was coming from school, and now that I'm out of school, I have no income, so I'm just currently surviving off of savings until I actually start working for... So building a new PC is definitely out of the question right now.
Yeah, that's rough. That's bad timing.
Yeah. Or if you look at it a different way, it's technically good timing, because if it happened just, slightly sooner, I would have been screwed on my project.
True.
Yeah, it's like something's going to happen. Any time after that is better than any time before. So I guess that's lucky.
Yeah.
In a way. Oh.
So is there anything specific that you're looking with the cafe to start or try, or is that all kind of hush stuff at the moment?
So technically, I have not signed an NDA, and I don't have to stay hush hush about anything. But there's a couple things that he requested that I maybe don't talk about.
Sure.
And which one of those? Start with those couple of things.
Things like opening date and stuff like that. He wants to have a stealth opening just to test the waters of things.
Just kidding.
So one of the things that I really like about this job is that we're just kind of this dev team that is working with the cafe, not necessarily as part of the cafe. And it's like we're just a dev team housed in the second floor of their building. We get to go down there and we get to let people test our game in the middle of development, stuff like that. It's really cool. But one of the best things about it is that the projects we decide to work on is kind of decided as a team. We all get together, throw ideas on a whiteboard, and then decide what one sounds the most fun at the time.
Yeah.
So there's, I've got a whole list of ideas that I've been compiling over the last year and a half or whatever of VR games that I want to make. So I'm sure most of those will, get a time eventually.
That's really neat to have kind of in-house testing and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's one of the unique things about the situation. You can literally just walk down the stairs, be like, hey, who wants to try an in-development game for free? And, someone's obviously going to raise their hand if it's for free. So we get them in a headset, let them try, be like, hey, test this out for me real quick. They do that, and then they can have fun with the rest of it.
That'd be awesome.
If it's a multiplayer game, you could even pop in there with them.
Yeah. Don't get super specific, but you said you're in a central time zone, and I am as well. So I'm wondering how far away I am and when is opening day for this.
He can't tell you.
It's not going to be opening until early next year. That's kind of about all I can give you. And it's in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
He said.
Okay. I remember. I just remembered that after I asked.
So cool. I actually mentioned that I was going to be coming onto this podcast while at lunch with them. And we were talking about different ways of getting feedback and stuff from people who are really into VR and things like that. and he was actually talking about wanting to invite and fly people out to Tulsa to try it out who are like VR content creators and stuff. He wanted to get Thrill Seeker and a couple other people and stuff like that. And when I mentioned that I was going to be on the podcast with you guys, they said that it would be pretty fun to get you guys out, but obviously that's in the future, and
Yeah.
I
would be
may or
game.
may not
Just
happen.
saying.
I know. We'll see.
I've
what
also we would really like to have like devs on that are having DLC come out, or I'm trying to get like the next Demio map before they like share it, like bring it in here and actually show it. I'm talking to Walkabout Mini Golf about their next big course about doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you guys ever have anything you want to like showcase, we're up for it. If we can help.
I was wanting to try and set up, a time to come onto the podcast with you guys, anyways, because I wanted to talk about the project that I was working on for school. But now that this job opportunity has popped up, that project's kind of on hold, so there's not a whole lot to show of it right now. But it is pretty funny that all this kind of happened in sequence. Like, I graduated, and then you guys needed a spot filled, so I volunteered because I'm like, hey, student perspective, that'll be cool.
And we appreciate
it. And then I was like, and then the job popped up, and so I didn't have time to put anything together for the game that I wanted to show. So I didn't actually end up talking to you guys about setting up an interview about that at some point. But
this was the student aspect hour, and you're no longer the student, and you've got a job lined up. You're gonna have to
it didn't work out.
Get out.
Yeah, it was all kind of like a weird sequence of events, which is pretty fun. But
he's just like, I'm gonna skip the bullshit and go right into this.
Yeah, when the universe lines it up for you, it's like,
line up the pins and knock them down.
What are you gonna do? I guess I'll just do that.
Yeah, make the next best choice, which I tried to do, and it turned out pretty well. But yeah, I wanted to talk about it's essentially the project that I did for my final for school. So
yeah,
I mentioned that my person I worked on with my partner for the project, we basically had like the same idea for it. That idea was that both of us wanted to make a VR-based alchemy system, because we both had an idea for games that would use that. So we decided, like, hey, if you're wanting to make an alchemy system, I want to make an alchemy system. Let's just make an alchemy system tool that can be taken and put into any VR experience. Then that, gets us the first step of the way there for our own personal project. And what I was planning on doing was working on that project for a little while after school, and then coming to show you guys whenever I had some like actual art made and stuff like that and talk about it. But currently it's just using free assets that I found online because we just needed to get the tool done for the school project. We only had like a month to do it. So it's using a bunch of free assets, and it doesn't look that great. So it's not really something I can show off right now, which is why I wasn't really able to like set up an interview about that. I wanted to talk more about like my perspective on stuff coming out from a student who just graduated, kind of thing.
Awesome.
What's it? I haven't been in school for many years, so what's not that you can say like what's it like then versus now, but like were there any challenges that someone might think weird to this situation? Because again, COVID, more technology. If COVID had happened when I was going to school, it would have been like, I'm either dead or not in school now. So.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird situation, but my school is kind of set up in a pretty good place to handle it. So the school is structured very differently. There are no teachers. So it's all like all the curriculum is hosted on their intranet online, and you have all of your projects sitting there, and you just go on the internet, look at what you're supposed to do, go do it. You work with your peers and the software engineers that they have on staff to try and essentially learn your own way instead of having to sit through lectures and stuff like that, and that works really well for me. I've been
Yeah,
programming
that
for
sounds amazing.
like 10 years and taught most of my what I know to myself, so that kind of appealed to me. um, so since all of the curriculum was already online and there weren't any lectures or anything like that, it was very easy to transfer to remote. We started, at least my cohort started January of 2020. So right before COVID happened. So we had like the first, month or two where we were in person and we got used to that and it was really great. And then suddenly we're having to do remote, which was a bit of a jarring experience and took a while to get used to because now we have to communicate via virtual methods instead of actually being there and being able to walk up to someone to ask questions. One thing that I did before COVID hit was I was generally, like, at least in the first part of the curriculum, I was generally ahead of people because I had already been teaching myself programming for many years. So I would a lot of the time finish before a lot of the other students would. So I'd finish my work for the day and then I'd get up and like walk around and make sure nobody needs help and stuff. Can't really do that virtually. You just could like finish your stuff and like put a post on Slack and be like, "Hey, yo, I'm done if anybody needs help." So it did change quite a bit. And the school's starting to slowly transition back to in-person stuff, which is probably even weirder than going to virtual.
Yeah.
Because none of the newer students have actually experienced in person at this school. They all joined during COVID.
Wow.
So it's this weird situation of like, we've been used to this virtual curriculum and collaborating virtually and working on all this stuff in a remote way. How do we take that and like translate it into in-person learning, which is just kind of weirder than going from in-person to virtual.
Because like when I was going to school, it was kind of smallish classes. Every month was basically a semester, so there was no sleeping. But like, there's really no change up when you're learning for that because everyone had to go through these really hard times, and this is ages ago. So you're working on stuff, and your PC would just beep and freeze, like just old school. Like, does my computer make that noise usually? And you'd lose any work that you didn't save, and invariably somebody in the class would do the Nelson from Simpsons. That just became like a call. You just hear that beep and like, everyone was doing that, and you just were hoping that person saved recently. And through that shared trauma is how you build bonds, and people got really close. Doing that, like I can do my job today remote much better than I can do in person because I don't get distracted as much. People and meetings and somebody coming by with a tray of donuts or something like that. That environment, it would have been really weird thinking back. Like if that was remote, I wouldn't know any of those people. Like I would have been interacting with them, would have been working with them, all that stuff. But I wouldn't have been there at 4 a.m. doing the 1 to 4 a.m. labs while the computers kept breaking and then everyone's scurrying to get stuff done. So was there any stuff like that? Like camaraderie?
Yeah, so the personal aspect of everything and like being, a student body, I guess would be the best way to say that, was definitely a little different once COVID hit. When we were in person, we could all just interact and hang out. If we got our, stuff done early, we would just, chill in the soft seating area and just hang out a little bit. We had chess sets and stuff, so we would play games and whatnot. But that's a lot harder to do when you're remote. One, you have to make like an actual effort to go approach people virtually and be like, "Hey, yo, you want to play a game or something?" Instead of just, seeing someone sitting by the chess table and, walking over there to join them. So it definitely a lot, and we actually we saw the effects of that a lot in the cohort that came right after mine. They weren't as cohesive of a unit. They didn't work together as much as my cohort did because there wasn't as much interaction there. And we brainstormed for a while to try and figure out ways of increasing interaction amongst peers to kind of get those bonds created and friendships made and stuff so that people could actually feel comfortable reaching out to others for help. And it took us a while to actually figure a good chunk of that out, and eventually we did get it to a place that we liked with the cohorts after that one. But it
Was there
did
any
take a
trick?
while.
Like,
There's
just
not
curious.
really any one, solution to it. We tried many different things. We tried what we called roundtables, where we literally just kind of grabbed a group of people, put them in a call, and then like started them talking with a question or whatever. But that didn't seem to do much. It was hard. Like forcing conversation is not something that's possible. Then we tried things like
My
game
ex-wife
nights where
can
we would play
attest to that.
where we would
What?
party game virtual stuff over a call, and that was a little bit better. We did actually get some results from that, but because it's like, maybe an hour on occasion, it still didn't really form those friendships. It just kind of like people learned how to interact with people in the specific context of those games and stuff.
Right.
So it really took a while. One of the things that I think was the most successful, whenever we got a new cohort in, to start them in groups, essentially. Instead of having everyone just start, as a giant mass of people, we would kind of subdivide them into like groups of 5 or 6-ish people. And then we would have like a group get together like at the start of every week. And these groups would be randomized every week or so. So the people would end up interacting with and talking to more like a new person at least every week or something. And that ended up working really well because the goal of those meetings wasn't like to try and force conversation. It was like, hey, you get to meet your student tutor, which is a whole other thing I could get into later. You get to meet your student tutor, some of your classmates, and then talk about the assignment that you did recently. And if you need help, you've got people here to help. You just chill in a call for 15 or 30 minutes, helping people out. So instead of forcing conversation, we encouraged them to help each other. And through that helping, they started to become more comfortable reaching out to each other for help. And that translated into being more comfortable to reach out just to, talk and hang out. Which wasn't really something we expected, but it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the goal, because like I think one of the biggest challenges today, regardless, is besides is COVID ever going away or whatever, but the whole work remote, because some places just hate it, some people just can't do it. So it's nice to see somebody like you guys don't have the onslaught of stuff that comes with a big day job career. You guys are being like a creative little powerhouse right here. Just it's neat to see like in those arrangements what naturally happens, because if you guys have projects that have due dates and have to get it done, you don't have a bunch of extra bullshit around. Something creative is going to happen to make that work. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, and it kind of changes quite a bit when we got to specialization. So I was in the AR/VR specialization, and there was 5 of us at the start of that specialization, at least here physically. There's a couple other campuses throughout the world, but they just didn't seem to want to interact with us too much. So it was basically just the 5 of us. And we had to work remotely doing VR and AR projects. A couple of them were like team projects that we had to group up for. But even just kind of trying to help each other with those AR and VR projects in a remote setting was kind of weird. If it were, if they were multiplayer things, maybe it would be a little different. But because they were all single player things, if we wanted to like test each other's builds out and try and figure out what the thing is, we would have to, create the build, upload it, send it to them, and we'd have to install it on whatever headset we happen to have at the time, because not all of us have the same headset. And then like it was a whole extra process just because it was AR and VR.
Yeah.
And it took a while to get used to that. I'm kind of glad that I did have to deal with that, because I really wanted to get a job that was remote work in AR VR, which is kind of a weird situation. There are jobs out there that are remote, but they're mostly for like, smaller dev studios and stuff who can't afford to just be local. And so I was kind of grateful for that experience, even if it was unintentional, just so I would be prepared for that in the actual industry. You know, I ended up getting a job that isn't remote, but, you know, I still have the experience.
Yeah.
Right. Because the craziest thing about remote, like requirement gatherings, if you were helping someone out or had a team, people don't talk so good, you know, all the time. Like they try to explain an issue, and I imagine it'd be like sometimes it's Greek because they're explaining, I don't know what game they do. If we're working on a first-person shooter, like my reload mechanic doesn't do something, they're weird, and then you have an idea in your head and you're trying to help them, you got to see it. That's an entirely different subset of working remotely. It's like, can I log into somebody's PC and check out what they're doing, or can they take a damn screenshot? And that's got to be really hard because you can't log in and see what they're doing or take a screenshot, and then you're gonna. Nobody can see me here, but I'm like drawing the headset that's on the front of the face.
Yeah,
gotta be
it's definitely weird with the headset. Like if you're doing web dev work, you just have, you know, the website hosted on a server somewhere, and you could just go log into the website via your own computer. It's a lot easier. With
Control
VR, it's all dependent on this. I just accidentally turned on pass-through mode.
He's drawn. It's so weird, people. Can you see this? And my headset clanking.
It's like a whole different dynamic, and it was interesting trying to learn different ways of, like, you know, dealing with that.
And I'm sorry if we're not monopolizing or
no. Go for it.
DJ, but like,
you're more suited for these questions than I am.
I don't know about that, but I have to do stuff like that all the time, and it's like having to. It's like an exercise in creative limitations, having to fly blind, and just if you come at it from, like, you know, I automate stuff, so I'll help people with processes and do all sorts of crap. People can explain how they do their day job, and now somebody asks me to automate something for it, and they will explain it, and then you will see it actually happen, and it's nothing like what they explained. So it's like a special skill set to be able to decipher what the fuck you just heard and see what the hell there's like. That has nothing to do with. And everyone should have to go through that. You should be able to, like, you know, you can sit with somebody and see what they're talking about to help them through a problem. Then you should be removed like a different level, and then 4 more levels, and then stuff like that. Because it is really, I'm tapping my head. I talk with my hand. You know, it's really
That's
a
what's
different
great about VR.
Right. You can actually see me now. Yeah. It's really, it's weird because I want to like point, but I don't know how far my virtual fingers are going into my face.
Back of your head.
Like, being able to just magically decipher and having the skill set to creatively think not only what the problem might be, but what the hell they're talking about, and then finding a way to make that work is just fantastic. Like, I think a lot of people that I work with should have that skill. Don't. And it's not saying a current job, all the jobs I've worked at. It's just the biggest freaking challenge. So,
yeah, it's kind of a skill in of its own, and it can take some time to figure that out. Thankfully, I've had years of experience trying to translate, like, layman's terms into actual technical speak and vice versa, because I'm kind of the go-to tech guy around. All of my family and my friends and stuff reach out to me when it comes to that stuff. I even have a lot of friends who are getting into development and stuff, and they'll reach out to me and be like, hey, I'm trying to do this, but it's not doing that, and I don't know why. Here's what I have, and, like, the most I could do is, like, look at a screenshot of what they have, so I'm mostly going off of, like, the things that they're telling me is happening or not happening.
right.
And it can be really difficult to translate that, even if they have some experience with programming, because they have different experience than me.
Yep.
So even, like, within the same industry, you'll have people who communicate things differently, and it takes a lot of practice to try and figure out how to decipher that.
And if you've never had to try it, and yet you're in the middle of crunch time at the end of a deadline, and you've never had to do that, that's going to fall apart. One of the funniest things, and sorry, PJ, I know you don't do programming stuff. I wish we kind of had markers here, like a big screen or the things where I can draw. Because if I had to go up to like a whiteboard and just write out SQL, and then erase it, and then say, can anybody here write that from memory? And nobody can, but it sets something in stone. But, like, there's a bunch of different ways to do stuff in programming, if statements, that kind of thing. But there's usually a for each And what a for each does, like for each item in a list of items, and then whatever you write in the code in the middle, it'll do that code on each one of the items in the list. But for each sets up a bunch of stuff for you. I tried to tell somebody how to do a for statement, which, PJ, I know you and viewers maybe haven't seen this, but if you read an old school for statement, you have to like put in a bunch of code string things to get it to work like that. A for each does a bunch of stuff for you, even though it's different. So I've had to teach people how to code because they're like, I need to learn how to do this scripting. It's like, well, fine, here's how you do a for statement, and you're going to want to be able to designate the number because you have to increment this, and then I've lost them, which I probably just lost everybody listening. So like, show them how to do the easier for, not madman, but show them how to do the easier for each, and like, oh, it's easier to explain, and then building that same for each on a whiteboard, just writing on a whiteboard, and then they're like, oh, and they start to understand, and then you erase it and make them write it from memory, and then you sit there and correct them from it. Starts the basis. Like, if you can't explain stuff very well, that's even in person. Try explaining. I imagine you've had much more challenging things like that with working AR and VR. Try to explain that to a person where you can't see me talking with my hand, no marker board. It's the most interesting thing to me. How do people communicate? Get that done. Like, some of the stuff I look back and I've done it without having to do VR with this damn headset on your face and all this stuff. The only proof of concept or feedback is inside the box. How the hell? Like, I'm sitting back, if that was VR and I was trying to teach people this shit, you guys are like little gods to me now. Like, ingenuity. I wish I would have fly on the wall there just to see that spark. That's so fucking cool.
So I mentioned a minute ago that there's this role called the student tutor at my school. I was actually a student tutor. So a student tutor is a student who basically it's like a part-time job essentially at the school while you're going to school, where you can just kind of volunteer your time, be available for people in a later cohort to reach out to you for help. I was assigned to a cohort that started, the second cohort that started after mine. So not the one right after mine, but the one after that one. And so I learned a lot about how to teach people concepts in programming, and I got a lot more experience in that sort of like explaining things kind of way. And one of the I didn't have to do a whole lot of like explaining when it came to VR and AR stuff specifically because that cohort didn't get to specializations before I graduated. They're only just now getting into specializations in like a couple weeks or something like that. But there was the cohort that came after mine. They started in the specializations a little while ago, a few months ago. So I was helping them out as well as helping out the other students in my cohort with the AR VR stuff. And, you know, it has this sort of extra issue to it of, you know, things needing to be in a headset to be understood. And, you know, trying to explain these concepts that are AR VR specific without losing them because they don't know much about AR VR. There's also the added issue of being remote that means none of us have the same system. We don't have the same workflow. We don't have the same headsets. We don't have the same stuff installed on our PCs. And that came up several times. My partner for the final project, he is working on not a MacBook. No, he's working on a Windows laptop, but he has an iPhone. And at one point we needed to do an AR project that could not be tested on the PC. It had to be installed on a phone and run on the phone. You cannot export or install or run iOS apps from a Windows machine. You have to have a Mac. And he didn't have a Mac. Nobody had a Mac for access for him. So he could not actually test this program on his phone. So I offered my help to him to be able and be like, hey, I've got an Android device. If you just like export it to Android, send it over to me, I can test it for you. He ended up not actually allowing me to do that, but that's, still a good example of the issues that you face with this specific industry and working remote. My workflow was really weird because I don't have a cable or even a port to connect my headset to my PC, the one that caught on fire. So I'm having to do everything via virtual desktop or installing it manually via my phone onto my headset, which is what I do for Spatial Ape because I can't connect to my PC, so I download the APK on my phone. Then I use a program called Bug Jaeger on my phone to install it to my headset, and it's a whole extra process. So whenever I create something on my computer, I have to export it to an APK, upload it to Google Drive, download it onto my phone, install it via Bug Jaeger, and then I can run it. So
And that's all the
testing,
stuff that you don't explain to people. You just upload it to your headset, and there's like 50 things going on.
yeah, and it's like I had this whole process that I had to go through for testing any of my VR programs. Because I don't have a headset other than my Quest 2. I had to create everything and export it and test it on my Quest 2 whole process. Whereas my partner for the final project, he has a way of plugging it in directly to his computer. So he was able to just click run and it ran.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully, for our final project, we actually managed to get around that because we decided to create it in OpenXR, which means I can run it via SteamVR, which means it works with virtual desktop. So I could just run it on my desktop without having to install it on my headset. Made it a lot easier to test things.
Yeah.
But like having different workflows and different equipment is a major struggle because if I have an issue with that workflow, my friend can't help me because he doesn't know what it's like. He doesn't know how it works.
Yep.
Like I'm basically on my own at that point.
But that, like, forging that stuff also builds a lot of crazy, I don't know what you call it, troubleshooting antics. You start to guess how programs work, and you just become better for it. Like, a couple of years ago, I was doing Unity AR because I was interested in it, and I just wanted to get something where I could draw the floor and, like, place them, rudimentary blocks and dots just by tapping. And getting the Unity stuff to 2 years ago, I'm sure it's much better now, but even 2 years ago, it was like, well, that didn't work. It didn't work on my phone, the version thing, and then there's something to automatically upload it to your phone. You just push a button in Unity, never got it to work, had to do the same thing. And somebody that, when you're learning code or when you're doing Code PJ and everybody else, the worst part, coding is the easiest part. It's setting up the fucking environment. It's like getting that shit done. And like, what does this actually need to do? Does somebody use like Team Foundation server or some ancient thing to control their code block? It's like, just let me write the fucking if or statement or for each or all that garbage. Getting that stuff down pat is pain in the ass. And then you get it to a point where it's fine for you and you're good with dealing with the pain in the ass and the extra pain in the ass. And then if you have, how do you make that scalable? If you add like 3 more people to your little team, if you're doing one sort of workflow and your cohort that you're working with now is doing another workflow and you bring on another person and they're not quite that good at that, they can do the coding, maybe do the art. They can't get it to you because they don't know how your upload crap works. You just flip a table. This is flipping a table in VR. It's just so interesting to me because I sit there
Try
like,
not to hit my actual table. I don't want to flip
Yeah.
that.
sorry, like something else on fire. This is just so interesting because my brain, like, how do people learn how to do this? Because my brain will figure a bunch of random shit out that nobody should have to deal with. Because sometimes you got to explain yourself to someone because they have to know it. And they look at you like you're a fucking idiot. And like, no one should have to deal with this. I'm like, I know, but you do. Welcome aboard. It's so fucking fun.
Yeah, and with the added hardware that VR specifically, and sometimes AR, though that's not as much of an issue now because everyone has a phone almost everyone has a phone that is
Yeah.
capable of AR in some form or fashion. But for VR, it has this extra hardware requirement of the headset that everyone can have a different headset. They all work differently. They use base stations or inside-out tracking. Like there's all these variations. It makes it even more complex to try and make sure everybody's in a consistent place to be able to work together like that.
Yeah.
That's
and
something
essentially feel. Sorry.
that's something I learned to work with quite a lot while at school. While I didn't actually learn as much as I wanted to in terms of VR development, the organization behind VR development, I did get a decent amount of like VR specific experience with.
Right. A lot of a lot of the stuff now, like you said, you downloaded assets, just free assets, just to get the shit to work. You just downloaded assets. Not to say like we Google for a living now, but like if you need to figure out a specific thing for VR development, somebody's probably done something similar. You can probably, etch it together. But that shit that nobody's ever going to tell you that you've already learned is probably better to learn anyway. Because it's like, PJ, in relation to stuff like where you doing, I still don't know all the stuff I can explain here and that what I do in my day job and that stuff I deal with. I still don't know how to get games running because I've never tried it. Through like the remote desktop stuff to get the shit streaming from my PC onto my Quest without the cable. My brain hasn't done the A to Z on that. I keep bugging PJ. I'm like, how do I do that again? And he'll tell me, and I'll fucking forget. And it's the same thing. PJ's had to deal with it. Somebody that hasn't. It looks like magic to me. I've done everything else with stuff. Plug in the cable, but like, how does that wirelessly stream games from Steam onto my headset without any glitches? Magic.
Yeah, and it can go as simple as even just like the basic UI of the home screen. If I put one of my friends who isn't, as familiar with the Quest 2 as I am in my headset and just let them have at it, they are going to stare at the home screen like, what do I do? How do I, what? They'll be basically bombarding me with questions because they look at it and they don't know what to do. So they have to either ask a ton of questions or just explore on their own and hope they don't break something.
Yeah. Make it rerunnable. And then also you're probably getting a ton of practice anyway, like troubleshooting a build or like a game for different headsets. Like you said, everyone's got a different headset and you gotta like, you slapping me?
You disappeared.
Oh. Yeah, you're gone.
I just saw a hand in my face like, hello?
Sorry.
Like if you got to get it working for like the Quest 1 and then somebody else has a Quest 2 and then somebody else has something different, how do you tell what's wrong with the build and what's just different about the headset?
It's really just a matter of experience a lot of the time. Knowing the differences and limitations of the specific VR headsets and essentially your development pipeline. So with my final project, we used OpenXR, which works on basically every major VR headset. That's the whole point of it. In fact, Facebook has completely just dropped the development of their own SDK in favor of OpenXR.
Good.
So it's actually a major thing, which is why we did it for our final project, so we would have experience with that because it's going to be the big thing going forward. And it's like a matter of like knowing whether like what SDK you're using and whether or not that has an issue with a specific headset. Like if I'm using the Oculus SDK, it's not going to work properly on desktop. Or if I'm using, Steam VR SDK, it's probably not going to work that great on, Oculus device. So it's really just knowing what you have and kind of narrowing it down from that knowledge. So I guess a good example, one of the projects that I had to do during school was a simple escape room in VR. And I had to... So I've mentioned that my development process is a little awkward having to upload it to my headset. But I figured out how to test it. That was when I figured out how to test it on my system via virtual desktop. And I did that for a little while, but then I realized that because I'm testing it and developing it on my PC, whenever I export it into an APK file for someone to check it and grade it, because they have an Oculus Quest 2, they need to install it on their headset, not everything worked right. You couldn't teleport. You couldn't... what was the other things? You couldn't interact with the UI at all. Like the height was wrong. Like there were so many things that were just weirdly wrong with it, despite me using the Oculus SDK to develop that game. Just because I developed everything and tested it all on the PC. So I had to like last minute go in and try and fix as many issues as I can via like testing and developing in headset instead of on the PC. Just to make sure that the person who graded my project wouldn't just, teleport into the ground and then give me a failing grade.
This is such a pain in the butt sounding thing, but that's not even like, that's the first like bit of game development you talked about was the escape room. All this other pain in the ass is like just to get to develop the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's so crazy.
Hey Zed, you do a lot of this work. Any comments or questions or input on that since you're here?
Well, I feel the pain. I was just this morning trying to set up an environment for a new VR project, and like I don't even I put it away because I thought I was done, and then I think I walked away later and had just a problem, and I'm like, no, I'm not done. It's just I want to get into XR. That sounds really good. Open XR.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
OpenXR, I think, solves a lot of the problems with the VR development pipeline. Especially when it comes to trying to develop for as many platforms as possible, which is very important right now because,
Yeah.
While most people are on a Quest 2 right now, according to Steam metrics and stuff like that, that doesn't mean everybody is. And because the industry is still new, you need as many eyes on your product as possible. So you need to develop for as many platforms as possible. And the easiest solution for that is just, only upload it to Steam, because technically anybody can use it, and someone with a Quest 2 can use that. But it's not as likely to get those eyes that way, especially from Quest 2 users, because a lot of them got the Quest 2 to play things natively on their headset. They may not have a PC that is strong enough to play the PC version. So
When they tried.
Instead of having to juggle all these different SDKs and stuff like that, you just use OpenXR and just make sure you test on as many headsets as possible and fix any issues that come up. It just makes the process simpler.
Yeah. Like .NET, another layer of crap to run through, but at least you don't have to say, if this, then run all this stuff using this SDK. Otherwise, figure out, this this version number means you might have a different brand of headset, and then run it that way. Yeah. That's cool.
I remember companies not all kind of complaining we have to make our game for the Sony PlayStation and then the Microsoft Xbox, and you guys are dealing with way more shit than they ever did.
Yeah, it's far more platforms. It's kind of weird.
The bulk of you are solo devs, indie devs, small teams, where those are the big companies that could do whatever they really want to do. Their complaint is shut up.
Yeah, it's rough terrain, basically.
Yeah, it's insane. It's you guys, that's half the reason we interview devs, and that's what we do, because it's just amazing to me, and you're all heroes to me, because all the crap you put up with and go through because you love what you're doing, and there isn't as much to gain or reward, if you will, as there is doing other things, but that doesn't stop you.
Yeah, it's definitely something you have to have the passion and drive for, or it's going to kick you out real easy.
Yeah.
It's not worth it if you don't enjoy it. Yep. Just because it's too difficult right now for just anyone to get into. Technically, anyone can get into it, especially with how cheap a Quest 2 is. I mean, $300 and then, a PC that can code and you're good to go. You can start making things. May not be the optimal experience, and it might be kind of difficult to, test things, but the bar for entry is really low right now. So we're relying on all these small studios and indie devs and solo devs to kind of lay the pathway for us. One of the major things that I'm going to be doing at my job that I went for the meeting for today, one of the first things we're going to do is start building tools to make developing games easier. We're going to have all sorts of modular things like the alchemy system. Apparently the guy who's owning the cafe wanted to do an alchemy game. So our experience making the alchemy system is going to go into a new tool.
How many freaking stars can just line up for you? What the fuck?
It's really great.
Supply Kit Kat, and then all this.
And we're going to be making things there's going to be some silly things, but there's going to be some great things. Some of the silly things include a fist bump engine. Being able to fist
Nice.
bump someone in VR is great. Fist bumps, high fives, and those are going to be like super simple modular things that someone can just take and plop into a game that they're making, and then bam, it's a lot easier. You don't have to reprogram things every time.
Yeah. We had Dave the Dev from Defective Penguin has been in here many times, and he always likes to give you high fives, and here, it doesn't work yet. So that would be nice.
My mute button is currently in the ground. I need to cough, but I don't want to cough into the mic.
Yeah, you got to kind of scoot out from the podium.
Oh, I can't teleport now. I'm gonna fall. If I move,
let it
I
rip.
fall. Oh no.
Just cough. It's fine.
I'll survive. It's fine.
Is Jason still around, or did he leave? He's normally like hiding up.
I was gonna say he was like over on the wall over there a minute ago.
Yeah.
No.
I wanted to play a game while we had a couple people here, but maybe he'll come back. We can come back to whatever, but I was thinking like it'd be funny to. I know the answer, but to bring up Kit Kats and your obsession and adventures with it. There's 28 Kit Kats here, Zed and Wookie. Out of 28 Kit Kats that are shown here, how many do you think Madman has had? Flavor-wise.
I don't see it up in the video, but I see the picture over there, a bunch of Kit Kats. Is it the same
Oh,
one?
you have Yeah, it's the same picture. You must have the early build. That's weird.
I tried. 28 Kit Kats. How many has Madman eaten? But you had like all of them. I'm going to say
all of them.
You're both saying all of them?
I mean, you're overestimating me here a little bit. I've only had, what was it, 21?
Yeah.
21 of the Kit Kats shown here is how many I've had.
That's still
of this
quite a
picture
good...
specifically.
Yeah.
I've had way more than what this picture shows, but there's a couple of these that I have not had. I mean,
I tried
there's a
to
few that
find
I'm
a
not
video of all the different flavors. You think it'd be easy, but it doesn't
No.
exist, so this is the
There's
best I could do.
too many flavors, and none of them exist at the same time.
Do you know how many there have been, like, total or anything like that?
I don't know. It's kind of hard to find a number like that. But there's a few on here that I would never have. Like there's a mint one down near the bottom. I hate mint; gives me a headache, so I'll probably never try that one. There's one.
What's the one with the dolphin on it?
The dolphin.
That's not like
Dolphin flavor.
I forget the name of it, but I remember it being really good, and it had this really pretty packaging, and all of the wrappers were like a different animal. It was really cute. I got it at. I think I got it at the Asian Mart here in town.
Nice.
And I genuinely do not remember the name of the flavor, but it was really good.
So for those listening, Madman has, like I said, he's been in our audience a lot. He's in Spatial Ape all the time, and I don't remember how we even got to talking about it. Maybe it was on your Twitter a lot. You were like, was it like a new one a week or something? You were trying to do all these.
So I basically ordered like over $200 worth of Kit Kats from Japan. And I started a sort of archive on my Twitter, just like a massive thread of me trying each one. I tried, I think it was 3 every week, or maybe it was 3 twice a week. So Tuesdays.
There's this graphic card money going to other things.
So I tried about 6 of them a week, I think. And then I would post like my review and like summary of them in this thread.
It was
and
awesome.
At some point, I guess they saw it, and we like started talking about it here after one of the podcasts at some point, I think.
It was one of the ones where you stuck around after the show, and we were talking and having a grand old time. And then sometime that week, PJ said, "Look what this dumbass is up to." You didn't say that. That'd been my word. Like, what is this guy? What he's doing? And I'm like, a lot of freaking Kit Kat. Like doing it.
It was a lot of Kit Kats. It took up so much space on my desk until they were all finally gone.
I love that kind of thing. It's just awesome. You just find something and you're into it and you're mapping it out.
Completely random.
Yeah. I intend to do another big purchase at some point, but right now I don't have the money for that. So
Yeah.
Well, anyone
Like
listening or watching, you can click his link in the show notes and donate some Kit Kat money or PC money, whatever you want to.
Yeah,
Nope.
the shipping for stuff from Japan is pretty dang expensive. So I can't do just like, one or two flavors. I have to do a giant haul or it's not worth the shipping costs. And right now I think there was only like 3 flavors available that I haven't tried yet. So in total, I'd probably only have 5 or 6 different flavors that I would order right now, because there's a couple that I really really like and I want to order again, and then the 3 or so that I haven't tried yet, and that's not enough to be worth it. Which is why I did a $200 order that first
Probably
time.
like $50.
That's the
shipping
only
for
way it
that
could.
or something,
I think the shipping on that order was somewhere like $30 to $50.
Crazy.
So it's
we just bought some old like 80s memorabilia from like a Studio Ghibli movie and Urusei Yatsura manga that my girlfriend likes, and it was like she got a book, like 2 books, and I got a book and a tiny toy. The shipping was like 75.
Jeez.
Yeah, it can be kind of ridiculous sometimes, but that's why I gotta optimize my Kit Kat buying.
Yeah. She's good at picking stuff out, so I always like stress her out because I'm like, can't she knows what a random bunch of stuff sells for. I'm like, can't you buy like 2 things over here, sell them on eBay, and pay for the whole order? And then I wind her up, and she doesn't want to take on the responsibility. Like those might never sell. If I buy $2,000, 2 separate $1,000 dolls, and try to sell them for $2,000 a piece, and that doesn't work, and we're out $2,000 anyway. I'm like, whatever. We'll just buy toys. And the weird thing about Japan, these are like from the 80s, like 1983 and 84. And they always sell them like, damaged box. They sell them at a discount. So you can get the little model airplane thing I got for like, if you find one over here and it's super rare, it's like, $90, $150. You get it there for $40, mint condition. Like magazines from the 80s, inserts, posters. None of it's been like unfolded. It's like, where do they have room for these things? This country is free. It's been sitting in like a perfect box somewhere for like 40 years.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Sidetrack, sorry.
I unfortunately have a bad habit of having a lot of expensive hobbies. I collect Pokemon cards and figures. I am into PC gaming, which is expensive up front because it's PC. VR is an expensive hobby. Like I've got so many expensive hobbies, and I guess you could consider the Kit Kats a hobby at this point. So many expensive hobbies, and it's kind of weird trying to figure out budgeting to make sure you can still do your hobby while not having to sacrifice meals and stuff like that, and also the things that you learn to try and save money during like doing those hobbies.
Yeah.
So like with the Pokemon stuff, I can get all of my Pokemon cards here in the US. That's not too expensive. Just Pokemon cards. But because I'm a collector and I want to collect all of them, I end up spending about $200 on just one expansion set. I end up spending about $200 to make sure that I have everything. I spend just over $100 for this is my process, and it's not the most optimal process, but it's what I like to do. Spend just over $100 for a booster box and an Elite Trainer box. The booster box is, one of the retail boxes of Pokemon cards that they'll open up and allow you to pick a pack out of, basically. I'll buy one of those whole boxes just for me to unbox. It's so much fun.
Yeah,
It takes me like 2 hours.
Feel like a YouTube channel where you set that up and unbox it? Because I'm sure a lot of people would watch that.
I did actually do that for 1 or 2 booster boxes a long time ago, but I decided it wasn't really worth it. It's not the kind of content I want to make, and I'm more into streaming now than YouTube, so not really something I continued. But I did test it out for a little while. There are plenty of channels out there that people do massive unboxings and stuff of Pokemon cards, and I watched those for a little while, but then I got envious because I couldn't spend money on Pokemon cards. So yeah, like that part there is expensive up front, but because of the way because I purchase, a booster box instead of just a ton of booster packs, it saves me money. So that isn't necessarily an expensive part of like my Pokemon collecting. What's expensive is when I have to buy things that are exclusively released in Japan, like exclusive figures and stuff like that. There's not a whole lot of Pokemon figures that I like, so when one comes up that I like, I really gotta have it. And if it just happens to be something that's sold exclusively in Japan, it costs me a lot of money.
It's funny because I collect some things, and I'm a geek, and I've married a non-geek, and explaining that shit to the non-geek and like why I'm spending money in these things, just right over their head.
It's
they look
just,
at you like whatever.
It's a futile effort.
Yeah.
One of the more recent things that I've been collecting Pokemon wise is that they have been making these stainless steel Pokeballs. They've made a Pokeball, a Great Ball, an Ultra Ball, and a Master Ball. And I've ordered all of them. The Master Ball specifically was a limited run, and I managed to get one. And
Nice.
they are over $100 a piece. But they're these really nice stainless steel Pokeballs, and and they've got like cool LEDs, and they're touch sensitive, and they've got like little animations and stuff that they do. They've got these cool little display boxes, and for the longest time I've wanted some really cool like Pokeballs to display on my shelves, but none of the ones that they've released were really any good. Like they were these cheap plastic things that were, had no way of actually like sitting still, so you'd have to like make your own little stand for them and stuff like that. But when, they announced these, I'm like, oh, that's perfect. They look cool. They're all RGB and fancy looking. They could fit in with my gaming setup. So I'm like, okay, this is worth $100.
Yeah.
So I bought it, and then I kept buying it until I had the whole collection, because I didn't want to go without all of the main Pokeballs. If they do like all the silly little random Pokeballs, I probably won't do it. Like the Nest Ball and the Love Ball and all that stuff. Probably won't do those. But I got the 4 main ones, and that's all I care about.
Yeah, I saw those.
but-
Those are amazing, and I like Pokemon, but I'm not like all into it, and I was tempted.
Yeah,
That's how
it's really
those are.
cool. Explaining that to my mother, like I mentioned it. I'm like, I spent $100 on a Pokeball. She's like, what? I'm like,
That's your first mistake.
It's for work.
It's a business expense. Don't worry. But yeah, like explaining that to people who aren't as into it as you, and who don't have, the full I go through this full process of like deciding whether or not it's actually worth the money. Like I just kind of went through part of it there. Like it fits in with my gaming setup. It's exactly what I've wanted for a long time. I can afford it right now currently, but if I wait too long, I may not be able to afford it. Maybe they'll also sell out, and I'll have to buy it more expensively on eBay.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like this whole like internal checklist I have when it comes to buying collectibles, and it's not really something you could just sit there and explain to someone who doesn't understand.
Yeah.
For the future relationship partner, you just keep explaining until they don't want to hear it anymore. And they'll be like, whatever, I don't care. It's like, my girlfriend likes, Sailor Moon crap, and they have like, little wands and lockets, and they're usually like makeup things. And she's got like, I don't know how many versions of those, and some of them are probably really expensive, but I can't remember it all. But she's told me exactly like her method like you have. And I'm just like, I don't care, just get that one. Snow me over.
She's got those 2 little neat cocoa cups too.
Yes, thank you very much. She liked them. They're huge.
It was her birthday, so I sent her some.
Yep. And then the
Or
day after her
hopefully you
birthday-
land with someone that, even if they don't understand it, if it makes you happy, go for it. That's what you want.
That's the ideal thing, but sometimes people will still question you.
Yeah. They still look
Like,
at you weird, but in the end, they're like, all right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Pokemon.
Where do we go from collectibles?
I don't know. For Pokemon, I remember being,
Whoa.
way back in the
Ooh.
day, like Burger
Oh
King.
no, you've become short.
I can't reach my chair.
I think you're shorter than me now, actually.
Yeah, he's
I'm under the table.
shorter than the table.
So we've got invisible, super short, and just mildly short.
Am I still invisible?
Yeah. I haven't
If you
seen you
can
for a
warp,
while.
sometimes it'll warp you back, but I can't even warp now.
Yeah, I can't teleport. I bet you
For
if
my-
I use my left stick to move, I'm gonna fall through the floor.
I don't.
I use
this
this elbow.
this. Okay, for anyone listening or watching who hasn't experienced VR, this is the power of VR. My face is now where my virtual ass was, and it's freaking me out. Like I don't want to smell my own chair. Like whatever, it just. I'm gonna sit over here.
It's just weird to me because I'm a really tall person in real life. I'm 6'2", so I'm generally
Oh.
above people. So in
Yeah.
VR, especially in Spatial Ape, where everybody's height is kind of just set to the same thing, unless a glitch happens like this, it's kind of weird walking around and be like, oh, I'm the same height as everybody. When I go into VR chat, almost all of the models are almost all the models that I like are real small. And honestly, I'm kind of fine with it because it's like this whole extra experience that I don't get to actually feel in real life. I have to look up to someone. That's weird.
Yeah, you walk by and like, this table is eye level, and then it's never happened before.
Oh, I never thought of
Yeah.
that because in VR, one of my favorite things is scale and like being super tiny or like large. But as a tall person going to a short viewpoint, does it actually kind of, how you visit like a childhood home and it just feels wrong because it's all skewed because you were small there? Does it have like the reverse effect of that?
Yeah, kinda. And
That's
it's this weird. It's got this weird relationship where, because I'm tall, if I choose a larger model that's even larger than I am in real life, it doesn't have as much of an effect to me. Like if it's really big and all the tables and stuff are super tiny, it's pretty fun. But it's not as fun to me as being smaller because it's something that is other people actually experience in real life, unless it's super super tiny. But if it's like an actual normal human size that's shorter than I am, I'm like, this is something that everybody experiences all the time, and they're used to it. I'm not used to this. This is weird. And then whenever they, the people that are that height go to be taller than me, I assume they get a similar feeling to that. It's
Yeah.
one of the weird things that VR is able to us that we wouldn't be able to do in real life.
Yeah. It's crazy. Don't height shame me, Zed. Come on.
Technically, I mean, yep. Oh no. Oh boy. Hi.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you're even
Hey.
shorter.
Oh, no.
I moved and it dropped me more. I didn't drop to the floor, which I thought I would have, but nope.
You
They
guys
fixed
are
that,
so
but
short.
they fixed it by just making you stop and you're really short.
It makes me wonder if they literally just added another floor collider under this floor.
Yeah. Look at Zed over there being all tall and shit. Showing off.
You're so
I can't even
tiny.
it doesn't even step me up when I go over to here.
Yeah, it's
I'm under
that's why
my
my face is in my chair.
Is that their fix? Because people used to fall through the floor, so instead of doing that, did they actually put more floors under there just to catch it?
Yeah, that's
I'm
that's
pretty
kind of what
sure.
I'm assuming, and it's
Yeah.
possible that they just, forgot or didn't intentionally didn't put a a teleport zone on that floor or whatever, so that's why we can't teleport at all.
Yeah.
And the
No,
collider
I
for the
think-
stairs doesn't go down that far.
I think we're technically falling right now because if you can't teleport, like even if you aim at something high, you still can't teleport, right?
Yeah.
So we're probably still in like a falling state. Maybe they just put like a minimum height
Gotcha.
that is breaking slowly.
It's possible, yeah. There's a million different ways of
Yeah.
temporarily fixing it. Yeah, it still makes me
So right
wonder
now,
what the
anyone-
actual issue.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say right now, anyone watching the stream sees 3 empty chairs. Like, that's why I'm trying to stand here.
I can
Like, who's talking?
oh, here I can signal my position.
That's nuts.
We need like a flare or something. I guess the closest thing would be the engineer since it has sparks on it. I can't actually even see the bottom of my menu here, so I forget what's down there on the bottom half of it. What's this one? Oh, I can't even select down there. Oh, there we go. What is that? Is that a target? I can't tell what it is. It's flying too fast.
Oh, it's the wheel.
The wheel?
I can't read it though.
Traction.
Oh yeah, the little traction wheel. We're just gonna spam the audience with hearts.
You love it. You like ice cream. You love it.
There goes
Use
that
my
rapid
second
fires.
finger to be able to rapid fire this.
Oh my god.
Break the shit.
It's like 3 fingers trying to just.
We should have like a mini competition at some point during like the main event to see who can fire the fastest.
Yeah, I think that'd be a fun mini game just to have like shootable targets pop up all over the place while
That would be
waiting for people. Well, I can't see my clock, but I think we've been going an hour and a half. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up about programming or schooling or anything like that before we...
I mean, at this point, I've probably forgotten everything, and I'm also getting low on battery on my headset.
Oh no.
I want to hit Wookie, but I don't know where he is.
Right here.
He's cloaking.
I'm right behind
Just shoot
you.
his camera up there then.
Oh, that works.
Do you guys not see my emotes?
Oh, actually, yeah, there you are.
Wait. Oh, I can't see the origin of them. They fly too fast.
Are they bouncing off? You hit me right in the face.
Oh,
No,
actually,
they're not bouncing off. You don't have a collider.
Just a
maybe.
puke button.
Where's your gun relative to your face? Can you like aim down the sights?
I'm aiming down the sights.
Oh, I think it bounces. It's hard to tell when you're shooting right at my face too. Where
I'm
are
not getting
you?
anything.
No.
This is
I'm
where
a
you need the bag
creeper.
of flour, right? You just fucking
Yeah.
get the flour.
I wish I could like
Predator.
throw the gun.
Yeah.
Even if it just disappeared after a little bit, it'd be fun to just throw it.
You could just fall through the floor. But PJ, I think it's just for me. But PJ hasn't had a head for like 40 minutes. I see your
PJ head.
T-shirt. I see your T-shirt, but not the head.
Yeah, I can pet
Alright.
PJ right now.
My head's in the stream, so that's weird.
Yeah, that's just a me thing. I think I just
I
step
see.
away, and then when your quest falls asleep, it really messes things up coming back in.
Oh yeah. Here, I can give a good example of that for the camera.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. That was a good one.
Am I back?
perfect.
Oh, hey,
Oh,
my height is sort of
That fixed it?
fixed. I mean, it's not normal, but I'm about just like a little bit taller than you now. Huh.
Am I
Maybe
back?
I need to like stand up, turn my headset off, sit back down, turn it back on. Let's try that.
Oh.
What happened?
Your jaw
still
went
the
like
same
4
height.
miles through the floor. Like Beetlejuice.
well, I'm just gonna do the closer for the audio podcast so we don't forget, but we can still.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, thanks everyone for coming and hanging out and talking to Madman Silver here. Zed in the audience. Again, I'm really bad at doing this at the top of the show, but thanks to Spatial Ape for giving us a space to do this in VR and hang out and
Yeah.
talk. But again, this was episode 88 of the VR Verdict podcast. I am PJ.
Wookie.
You probably can't see Wookie, but
I'm here. I hope.
this was our